She sniffs the rose before tucking the peach-colored petals into my pocket again. Nice catch, I say. Remember? Shirley asks with a wink. The sunlight glints through leaves and limbs of the thick oaks and pretty sugar maples that line the small plot that once served as our cottage association's baseball diamond in our beachfront park. I am standing roughly where third base used to be, the place I first locked eyes with my husband, Jonathan. He had caught a towering pop fly right in front of the makeshift bleachers and tossed it to me after making the catch. Wasn't the sunlight that blinded me, he had said with a wink. It was your beauty. I thought he was full of beans, but Shirley gave him my number. I was home from college at Michigan State for the summer. He was still in high school, and the last thing I needed was a boyfriend, much less one younger than I was. But I can still remember his face in the sunlight, his perfect skin, and a light fuzz on his cheeks that were the color of a summer peach. In the light, soft white floaties dance in the air like miniature clouds. I follow their flight. My daughter, Mary, is holding a handful of dandelions and blowing their seeds into the air. For one brief moment, my mind is as clear as the sky. There is no war, only summer, and a little girl playing. You know more about plants than anybody here, Shirley continues, knocking me from my thoughts. You should be in charge here, not Betty. You're the one that had us grow all these strange plants. Flowers, I say. Not plants. My specialty is really flowers. Oh, don't be such a fuddy-duddy, Iris, Shirley says. You're the only woman I know who went to college. You should be using that flower degree. It's botany. Actually, plant biology with a specialty in botanical gardens and nurseries, I say. I stop, feeling guilty. I need to be at home, I say, changing course. I need to be here. Shirley stops hoeing and looks at me, her eyes blazing. She glances around to ensure the coast is clear and then whispers, Snap your cap, Iris. I know you think that's what you should be saying and doing, but we all know better. She stares at me for a long time. The war will be over soon. These war gardens will go away too. What are you going to do with the rest of your life? Use your brain. That's why God gave it to you. She grins. I mean, your own garden looks like a lab experiment. She stops and laughs. You're not only wearing one of your own flowers, you're even named after one. It's in your genes. I smile. Shirley is right. I have been obsessed with flowers for as long as I can remember. My grandma Myrtle was a gifted gardener, as was my mom, Violet. I had wanted to name my own daughter after a flower to keep that legacy, but that seemed downright crazy to most folks. We lived next door to Grandma in cottages with adjoining gardens for years. Houses my grandfather and father worked themselves to an early grave to pay off. And now, they were all gone. And I rented my grandma's house to a family whose son was in the Coast Guard. But my garden was now filled with their legacy. Nearly every perennial I possessed originally began in my mom and grandma's gardens. My grandma taught me to garden on her little piece of heaven in Highland Park, overlooking Lake Michigan. And much of my childhood was spent with my mom and grandma in their cottage gardens, the daylilies and bee balm towering over my head. When it got too hot, I would lie on the cool ground in the middle of my grandma's woodland hydrangeas, my back pressed against her old black mutt Midnight, and we'd listen to the bees and hummingbirds buzzing overhead. My grandma would grab my leg when I was fast asleep and pretend that I was a weed she was plucking. That's why you have to weed, she'd say with a laugh, tugging on my ankle as I giggled. They'll pop up anywhere. My mom and I would walk her gardens, and she'd always say the same thing as she watered and weeded, deadheaded and cut flowers for arrangements. The world is filled with too much ugliness. Death, war, poverty, people just being plain mean to one another. But these flowers remind us there's beauty all over.